Breath of the Wild, good example of this, is that you have a long-term goal. Ganon is a problem. You have to defeat Ganon.
It can be a short-term goal if you want to go beeline for Ganon.
Yeah. I mean, I would still say it's a long-term goal because it's the overarching thing that you're supposed to achieve in the game.
Sure.
But
if you want to play the game and just beeline straight for Ganon with your wooden stick, you can do it.
Alex, wake up. We got one more class, and then we gotta get out of here. School is longer than I remember. These classes are forever. But we want to talk a little bit about an element of game design that I don't think we've really discussed on the show in any detail, which is about short versus long-term goals.
Yeah. Goal making is not my hobby.
No, it is not. And the thing about it is that we could probably talk about this in terms of video games, but I actually think that it's important when you're designing tabletop games more than anything. Because with the length of sessions that you'll go through and the length of campaigns, being able to set up long and short-term goals is pretty impressive and important.
Yeah.
So let's just talk a little bit about what those are. So your short-term goals are pretty straightforward. If I'm talking about like chess, it's about capturing a piece. I have one piece on the board and I need to capture it. If we're talking about a tabletop game, it might be I need to win this, governor over and get him to see things my way. I need to get enough money to buy the new sword. These are
I feel like for tabletop, short-term goals should probably be ones that you can, accomplish in like 1 or 2 sessions.
1 or 2 sessions, and a lot of times those short-term goals are going to have to be in league with the players themselves. Like the players are almost going to have to set those up to some degree.
Yeah.
When it comes to the storyline, some of those short-term goals are the little steps that you have to take in order to complete larger quest lines. And being able to dole those out at a regular interval is really important to keep player engagement. The long-term goals are the overarching things that you're trying to accomplish, which is either the quest lines themselves or eventually the overall campaigns that you are on. And so you can have multiple long-term goals. That you can have the main overarching one, and then ones that go over several different story arcs that come to a completion. So, for instance, we'll use the game that we were playing where I was Max. Those have these individual cards. Was it Icespire Peak? I want to say it was Icespire Peak was the module. In that one, they give you basically these individual cards that are quests that you're going on. Completion of those individual cards is more of a long-term goal because you're going over multiple sessions. But the steps that you're taking to get there and the obstacles you're overcoming are more short-term goals you have to complete. And then there's a longer-term goal, which is that you have to defeat a dragon at the end. Which those...
I would say the quests are shorter term goals. I mean, we were taking multiple sessions to do them, but
Sure.
I feel like they were shorter term goals.
Okay. So in some ways, I think maybe there's even more categories. You have the micro term and the short term, and then
immediate
more long term
goals, short term, and long term.
Exactly. The blink term goals, which is the things that you are doing. You get into a combat. Completing the combat and defeating your enemy is a short-term goal.
We don't need to make really. I don't think we need to make micro goals.
We don't need to make micro goals.
Survive the combat.
Survive the combat.
Good goal.
Good goal. But that really just mostly plays into the idea of giving enough rewards to the players, or providing them with something to do both in the short term and in the long term. And theoretically, when I was looking through this, a lot of designers will talk about creating a mix of these so that those short-term goals will eventually merge into something larger. That all of these goals that you're trying to complete will eventually go into the long-term goals. Which, if we look at Icespire Peak, like you were saying, those individual missions, inform the players of the world, but also give them the means necessary to complete a larger and more difficult set of goals that then lead to a larger set of goals, etc. Like you have a goal pyramid. You've created a goal pyramid. A golemid, exactly. This golemid we've created has a foundation of small things that you have to achieve that lead to larger things, and eventually the apex at the top of your golemid is indeed the end of the campaign, is like the overarching goal of the campaign that you need to achieve. Now, my question for you is, how often do we really need to be able to create and resolve something like a goal as a general rule? Like, if we're talking about short-term goals.
Oh boy, you're asking me how often I need to make goals?
You're the wrong person to ask for this, aren't you?
I'm the wrong person to ask for this.
Okay, so
I don't make goals, Nathan.
No, you. Okay, well then here's the thing. Do you expect the players to make goals for themselves?
If you've talked about that being a thing in your game, sure.
Okay.
I feel like if you set the expectations, especially if you're doing like a milestone EXP, for instance, in D&D, then setting goals is a good thing, because you can go, all right, what are the things your character wants to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
Or you want to accomplish with your character, if you'd rather do it that way. So these are some short-term goals for what your character wants to try to do, and then your long-term goals of what you want to get done, like later on down the road.
Right. Is it appropriate to talk to players about how these short-term goals they want to complete are going to go into the larger narrative? And
I feel like that should be fine, unless it involves them knowing things they shouldn't know.
Okay, so, like, I guess here's my scenario. I have my players in front of me, and I'm running the game, and I know where the game is going to go, and I know the general things that they want to do, or that they should be doing for the quest that they're on. And then the player goes, I want to get some new slacks. I just want to get, I gotta get new tights. And you say, okay, so you're gonna get new tights, but how is that going to, like, how does that actually relate to the quest that we're on? What are you gonna get out of it? It doesn't necessarily have to relate directly, but I'd like to know. I'd like to at least know if this is something directly related to the quest lines, or if this is a character-related thing, or how this is going to play in. And I do worry that might be a little bit metagaming, because it's like kind of like talking outside of the character interactions themselves.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of metagaming can be okay.
Yeah.
When it's not a lot of metagaming, and when it's not, like, going to influence the game itself really badly or anything like that. It really depends on the type of metagaming. Most people would say that knowing the weaknesses of your boss that you're going to fight that you shouldn't know in game is bad metagaming, but like just knowing where your characters want to, where your players want to take your characters is good. But I feel it's not metagaming if it's knowledge that the GM would need to know to account for.
So we can say, like, you mentioned the weaknesses of bosses. So you could say that maybe the players have a short-term goal of uncovering what the weaknesses of the boss are. And your longer-term goal is defeating the boss. So if they set that as a short-term goal, how much time do we really want to devote to that to determine if they succeed or fail? Like, is that like a 1 or 2 session thing where maybe they're trying to come up with that knowledge, or
that could be a longer term goal if the taking that boss guy down is like a very long, like the end of campaign goal, then sure.
Right. We're halfway up the golemid.
Yeah, maybe there is a complex web of things you need to do to learn that weakness.
Okay.
It could be several short goals long.
Sure. And that's the thing, is that I imagine short-term goals being things where you would have to stack several of them up in order to complete something that's more of a long-term goal. Thinking about this, so like Breath of the Wild, good example of this, is that you have a long-term goal. Ganon is a problem. You have to defeat Ganon.
It can be a short-term goal if you want to go beeline for Ganon.
Yeah. I mean, I would still say it's a long-term goal because it's the overarching thing that you're supposed to achieve in the game.
Sure.
But
if you want to play the game and just beeline straight for Ganon with your wooden stick, you can do it.
Good luck, but yeah.
People have done it.
People have. People who are insane have done that.
Yeah.
But if you put in a bunch of short-term goals that are going to help you complete it, you might find that the long-term goal is easier to manage, or it's easier to understand what your long-term goal is. Because especially in role-playing games, you might not actually know what your long-term goal is, and those short-term ones can help you. That does kind of get back to my whole question about, like, how many and how often do we need to start setting and resolving those shorter goals to keep player engagement? And I know what your answer is going to be. It depends.
Depends. I don't do a lot of goal setting ever in life. I've never done any goal setting. So, like, me answering that is not an easy ask.
Certainly. Yeah, no, I understand. I usually will wake up with a set of goals that I will probably not achieve, but I guess it is for a longer term thing in the game of life, which, maybe we shouldn't. The gamification of life is a whole other subject to talk about at some point, but I guess, yeah, in some ways our lives are about, like, creating short-term and long-term goals, just, like, outside of gaming itself. We will set up short-term goals about, like, well, I gotta put on my pants. And that is, sometimes that's a hard...
on my pants.
Sometimes that's a hard goal, you're just like going...
definitely.
Why do I have to do that? And yet, we do have to do it, because if you don't complete those short-term goals, your long-term goal of going out to shop is going to be much trickier for you if you haven't completed...
a little bit harder as a treat.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that are going, you didn't complete those short-term goals. Now you're walking around without pants in the store. That's not good. When I'm doing workflow, too, I will kind of have, okay, I need to record, I need to edit, I need to do these steps in order to achieve my long-term goal, and my long-term goal is that I produce a podcast, and I produce a video, and that's going to lead into a larger thing. So, in some ways, the human brain is naturally set up so that it can, handle short versus long-term progression systems, but it can be very easy to forget that we need to do that in games, because that is something that people are going to... If you just said, here's the long-term goal, don't worry about the short terms, it's going to be harder for players to engage with the system, because it's this long span of not really achieving anything specific. So, you could still have your combats, you could still have all of that stuff, but the completion of a goal is that dopamine that gets you saying, oh, okay, I'm in it. I'm still in it. And I have something larger that I'm trying to accomplish, and I've achieved something towards it.
Yeah, it would be wonderful if I could set goals so I could get that dopamine hit from completing goals.
That's right. And the more difficult a task, the better
Setting
it
goals
is. Yeah. We're going to set the goal to set goals. Your long-term goal is to set a bunch of short-term goals.
I guess some people with ADHD actually have to, like, plan time to plan time.
Yeah.
Or set goals to set goals, for instance. And it's like, that's a thing.
You know what? It's the goalamid. It's our goalamid.
The bottom rung of the goalamid is goal setting as a goal.
Exactly. It's a goal. And if you do goal setting, if you say I'm going to do goal setting, you've automatically won. There's something.
No, you don't, because I don't follow through with that shit.
Then you failed entirely. Okay.
Welcome to my life.
As we approach the end of the year, though, it's probably a good time to talk about some goal setting. So if you have goals that you are hoping to achieve in the new year, let us know, whether they be short-term or long-term.
Or if you have a whole goal limit.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's funny, every time we say goal limit, I think of a golem and id. So it's like the base preternatural sensory of golems.
It's like a golem with like a triforce in it, but it's just a pyramid of goals.
Pyramid of golems.
Yeah. Golem pyramid, yeah.
Golem pyramid, yeah. Just golems all the way down.